Safe Space Cafe. We have lots of political news.
And we will continue to defend the rights and interests of Canadians around the world and stand up against anyone who would go against our interests. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Carleton.
Ce gouvernement mène une guerre contre.
This government is waging a war against work. It is trapping people in poverty. According to a report from the Finance Minister Department obtained by a journalist, a single mother earning $30,000 a year would lose about 70 cents for each additional dollar earned. So, for example, if she earns $55,000, she would actually lose 80 cents on the dollar. And it is the people with the least money who end up losing the most. Why is this government penalizing people who are just trying to work to get away from their situation of poverty? The Honourable Minister.
A wolf in sheep's clothing. I never thought I'd see one on the floor of the House of Commons. The reality is, when we put forward measures to actually cut taxes for the middle class and raise taxes on the wealthiest 1%, that member voted against it. When we changed the Canada Child Benefit to put more money in the pockets out of middle class families and stop sending child care checks to millionaires, that member voted against it. And with respect to the measures we put forward in this pandemic to ensure that middle class and low income families could keep food on the table and a roof over their heads, that member stepped up to the microphone and said an approach of big fat government programs wouldn't help Canadians. Those workers deserve to know that their government will have their backs, and that's precisely what we're going to do.
L'honorable député de Carleton.
Well, that member is a sheep in wolf's clothing. But, Mr. Speaker, speaking of creatures that don't actually exist, you know, he speaks about this so-called middle-class tax cut. Well, the report from the Finance Department says that its effects are, quote, difficult to spot. So it's kind of like the Loch Ness Monster. Big, notorious, spoken of often, but no evidence it actually exists. Now, Mr. Speaker, what the report does say is that when poor people in this country get up and go to work, this government takes more in clawbacks and taxes than they're allowed to keep of that extra Canadian dollar. Why are they punishing work?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, I'm entertained by the honourable member citing a mythical creature that's dear to my Scottish heritage. That's about as far as I can remain interested in this ridiculous line of questioning, Mr. Speaker. The reality is programs like the Canada Emergency Response Benefit have landed on the kitchen tables of 9 million Canadians. Programs like the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy have protected the jobs of 3 million Canadians. Programs like the Emergency Business Account have supported 775,000 Canadian businesses so workers can remain on the payroll. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to supporting low-income workers, we are looking out for their interests and, more importantly, advancing programs that are actually helping them get by during a time of unprecedented difficulty.
The Liberal government allowed 2 different American billionaires to enter Canada, and they waived quarantine rules. Both times, the public safety minister said he had no knowledge of what happened. But he's just one of 5 ministers who can approve such waivers. Since the public safety minister didn't do it, it must have been the Prime Minister. So my question is for him. Why are there one set of rules for the rich friends of this government and one set of rules for everyone else?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite in Wells know that that was a decision taken on the border by locals on the ground that was made in error, and the situation was fixed afterwards.